Hi, I'm Fuzzy. We got another version of Crystalarium. The goal for Milestone 7 was basically for me to figure out how to use XML files. I wanted to do this for another feature that I had planned down the line. We'll talk about later probably. But I figured adding saving and loading was a good way to figure out how to use them. Um, yeah. So you see, I have this map right here, and I can press Control S, and I can choose a slot to save it in. I have it saved in one, and I can also open some files. So saving works for different rule sets. We can see this is Wire World here. Um, I loaded this one. It's working. Um, and it also preserves the state of signals. So here in the minimal rule set, I have a D latch, and you can see it's on. The save, like remember that was on. I can turn it off. I can save again, and then I go somewhere else, and then ta-da, and now it's off. Um, so it's very useful, and I can show it off. I guess if I wanted to. So I can make like a not gate or something. If I remember. And I believe it is like that. Yeah, not gate. So I can save that, save it in slot, I don't know, 4. Um, and now it's saved, and I can like go back to it if I want. Great. So that is the first main feature of Milestone 7. Um, it wasn't too hard to add after I figured out how to use XML stuff. I mean, I don't really understand. Like, I'm not doing it properly. There's like schemas and stuff that you're supposed to use, probably. I mean, that it'd probably make it more convenient if I used that um, to like validate the files instead of doing it with code. There's some like semi-automated way to do it. I don't really understand it though. Honestly, I couldn't figure it out. So, but I figured out how to read the files relatively simply and whatnot. So that's been working. Um, XML is probably not the best way to do a file. It's not supposed to be edited really. There's it's not. It doesn't need to be edited by looking at a text file. There's probably there's a lot of redundant repetition. Um, so the file sizes are probably a lot bigger than they need to be, but that's how they go. And then I had extra time, and I was like, let's use XML more in keybinds, which are now a thing. I had a keybind system earlier, but now we have a fancier one that keybinds better, that you can actually modify. So there wasn't like a basic system that I had, but I revamped it and made it so you could edit it. You can't edit it particularly easily, um, unfortunately. You have to go into a file and edit it. But keybinds are now a thing. You can press I and it shows you the current keybinds. You can have multiple different keybinds for a command. So you can have like 2 different ways to do it. Like I believe by default, arrow keys moves the camera as well as WASD. Just to like show that off, and it's in the file. On Windows, if you on the Windows install, you should just be able to like open the Crystalarium folder, and then settings, and then controls is the file. Um, you can also have multiple keys for a keybind, like saving is Control plus S. That all works fairly well. Um, for Mac users, it's a little it's not the most convenient system. Like editing a text file for a keybind, not great. And for Mac users, I believe you have to click on the app. Right-click, open package contents. There's a folder called Mac OS. Inside that is a folder called Contents, and then you should find Settings and then Control XML. So that's a bit. It's like not the greatest way to do that. Eventually, I would like to get things happening on that front. So none of the additions of mouse. Okay, my headset turned off for no reason. One of the additions, the additions of Milestone 7 weren't actually that terribly difficult. They just kind of worked pretty easily, which is convenient. But it's becoming increasingly clear to me that um, This kind of program is probably a program that needs a lot of UI, and currently there is next to none. I mean, I have this like very crude menu system, but like we have no UI. Let's be honest, no UI. So it that needs to happen sooner rather than later. Before I made Milestone 7, I had this plan. I was going to make Milestone 7, figure out how an XML file worked, and then Milestone 8, I was going to make rule sets something you could create. Like you could edit and create, just like folders made of XML files and like PNGs or whatever, for the assets. Um, and then I was going to make Milestone 9, where I just added some capabilities to the system so I could do some other stuff, and I want to do all that still. But the idea, but it's become increasingly clear that I would really like UI, and making a UI system, I've tried it before. It seems pretty freaking hard to make it from scratch, but I'm kind of excited to try. Um, but before we can even get there, I'm gonna need to um, do like a back end, like all the basic graphic stuff. I'm gonna have to rewrite a little bit. First of all, text rendering, the way I'm using Monogame for this project, the way the Monogame handles text rendering is kind of terrible. So if I can find an alternative somehow, that'd be good. Because you have to like pre-bake a bunch of these like weird files for every possible font size you could want, and then you can scale it up and down. You can scale the text to any size, but if you use the wrong font size, it looks terrible. Um, I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard you can only use, like, if the user doesn't have the particular font you're using installed on their system, it doesn't work. That's not good either. Um, so if I can find an alternative, I would like to do that. Secondly, scaling doesn't work. You can resize the window, but like everything stays the same size. Um, like everything gets bigger, but or the main screen gets bigger, but all the text stays the same size. Um, the mini map stays the same size. So making a UI scale system that like properly like rescales everything, and you can maybe there's a setting somewhere you can change the scale, or maybe it I don't know looks up your like screen resolution and like auto adjusts maybe or tries to, and you can change it from there. Um, yeah. And then there's some other stuff I'd like to do. So I'm probably gonna do that next, and then after that, I'll maybe work on UI. Might make rule sets happen as a thing you can edit. Possibilities from there. But yeah, that's my progress report. 8 minutes, dang. See ya.